Welcome to Satsang. So wonderful to be together with you all. And welcome, of course, to our family joining us from all over the world. We're so glad to have you all with us as well. And beginning with one of the questions that comes in advance from our global family, and then we'll open it up to any questions that anyone here might have. Above what else? So many good questions. Above all else, what do we owe ourselves? So what's the most important thing that we owe ourselves? I think the most important thing that we owe ourselves is for every moment of our life to be one that we are able to live in truth of who we are. That it's not about what other people do, what other people say, what the external situation may be, what the stock market may be like, or the traffic may be like, or the weather may be like. But that I, in all circumstances, am able to live as the truth of me, meaning as love, as peace, as joy, as this divine embodiment, because that's what we all are, is the embodiment of the divine. And it doesn't mean upar sai. It's not about repression or denial or suppression. It's not pretending that there aren't important problems that need to be addressed. Doesn't mean pretending there isn't grief or challenges. But it means in the face of all of that my heart is open to it all, I'm present with it all. Because the truth of who I am is that there's space. There's infinite space in me as me. For challenge, for difficulty, and for that divine expression. That regardless of the challenges, regardless of the difficulties, I can still be the truth of who I am. I can still be love and peace and joy. Because nothing in the external world should have the right to steal that from me. And so I think that we owe ourselves, we think about freedom as the ultimate and highest goal of life, moksha. Well, the only way to really be free, to attain real moksha, is if I'm no longer bound by what other people are doing. By how people treat me, how they act, how the weather is, how the stock market is. Whether I got the raise or the promotion or my project got accepted or whatever. As long as I'm hooked into the result of those, number one, I'm not free. And number two, sometimes I'll be happy, sometimes I'll be sad. Sometimes I'll be satisfied, sometimes I won't. As I win and lose, gain and lose, succeed and fail, in the external aspect of life, well, so will my internal situation go up and down. But I think what we owe ourselves the most is that freedom to be the truth of who we are regardless of what is happening around us. Because otherwise we're slaves. We're beggars. We're both. Otherwise it's like, please, please, please be nice to me so I can be happy. Right? Please, please, please respect me and treat me nicely and give me what I want because I really want to be happy, and if you don't, then I can't be happy. To be Bhakti Benge. It's like saying, until you do what I want, I can't experience my birthright of joy, of love, of peace. So we're not here to be slaves, we're not here to be beggars, which means that only in that commitment to the truth of who I am can I find that. Because otherwise we're beggars to the world. Oh, please don't rain, please don't rain, please don't rain, it's my picnic. Bhakti Benge. Right? Please appreciate me, please like me. Shanti chahiye mujhe, so please like me. Please appreciate me. Please talk nicely to me. Then I can be in peace. We're slaves, we're puppets. So the highest thing we owe ourselves is not to be a puppet, not to be a slave, not to be a beggar. And the only way to do that is to live your truth, regardless of what's happening in the world. To really be able every minute and every moment to live that true nature. It's not, oh, cello, everybody's gossiping, so I'm gossiping. Everybody's getting drunk, I have to get drunk. Everybody's being like this, I have to be like that also. Then again, you're just a slave. In that case, just a slave to sort of popular actions, a social group. But if our highest goal, if the highest goal is moksha, freedom, then our highest responsibility to ourselves, what we owe ourselves the most, is to enable ourselves to be free. And the only way to be free is to be able to live as the truth of who you are. Which is love, which is peace, which is this divine expression on earth. There's a beautiful story that Pujya Swamiji loves to tell about a saint who was bathing in a river. And as he's bathing in the river, he notices a scorpion that's drowning in the water. And so the saint goes to pick him up and put him on the riverbank. And as he picks him up, the scorpion bites him, stings him. And so the saint instinctively just flings his hand like that. And of course the scorpion falls back in the water. The saint goes to pick him up again. Again he stings him. Again, instinctively, in pain, the saint does this. Scorpion falls. This drama goes on a few times until someone who's watching from the riverbank says, Baba, ye kab tak karte rahenge? How long are you going to try to keep saving him? He's a scorpion. That's what he does. He stings. Mardne do. Let him drown. And the saint says, as a scorpion, yeah, what he does is sting. His dharma, you could say, is to sting. But as a saint, my dharma is to save. And if the scorpion's not leaving his dharma, why should I leave my dharma? And so you can think about that story in this context, that just because other people may not be living in the truth of who they are, may not be living as love, as peace, as joy, as divinity, just because they may be living in ego or arrogance or ignorance. Why should you give up your truth just because they've given up theirs? We have a duty to ourselves, our dharma to ourselves, to live that truth. So I think that's our greatest responsibility to ourselves, every minute and every moment, is not to be a slave, not to be a beggar, to be free. Doesn't mean that we're going to be able to do everything we want in the world. There's laws. Countries have laws, cities have laws, companies have laws, families have rules. Doesn't mean we don't ever have to compromise. That's not what I mean. Freedom to be your true self doesn't mean, no, I will never eat Chinese food because I hate it and I know you love it, but we're always going to eat only what I want. No, it's actually the opposite. It's actually the freedom to say, God, I really don't love Chinese food, but I really love you. And I really love peace. And therefore, I have the freedom to be able to eat something that I don't love every once in a while, as an act of love, as a choice of peace, rather than to need every morsel of food that goes in my mouth to be my absolute favorite in order to be okay. So that freedom is on a much deeper level than what we think of as sort of a license to decadence or a license to recklessness or my way or the highway type of living. It's actually the freedom to surrender, the freedom to say, may thy will be done. Freedom to say, okay, you want Chinese? So be it. Because I can even smile eating something I don't like. Because I'm not a slave to my taste buds. I'm able to find love and joy even in a restaurant that's not my favorite. Amazing. Right? Able to find love and joy even being told that the project that you proposed didn't get accepted. That you've been passed over for the raise or the promotion. That's the freedom. It's not the freedom to always get what you want, but the freedom to be who you are, regardless of whether your desires are being satisfied or your ego is being, buttered up. That's real freedom. If anyone here has a question, I would be happy to answer it. Yes. Just one sec, he's going to give you the microphone. Yeah.
Hello. So be true to yourself. For me, it's living in present and executing the things as per your own consciousness. Is that true, or am I lagging on my conscious on that?
No, it's beautiful. I would go a little bit broader, though. So you've given 2 points. You've said living in the present. Living in the present is absolutely required in order to live in joy. Because you can't actually be happy yesterday. You can't be happy tomorrow. If I'm really going to be in joy, I have to be right here, right now. If I'm off in next week, even if I'm dreaming of a beautiful next week, That's not joy. It's a desire, it's an expectation, it's an attachment, it's a daydream, it's whatever you want to call it. But it's not actual joy. And if I'm remembering something from last week that was really nice, well, again, it's not joy of this moment. It's a story, a memory. It's an association in my mind that brings me a moment of happiness when I can hold it in my memory. But real joy, I have to be in the present. Real peace, I have to be in the present. So I think of living in the present as a means to an end, meaning whatever I really want to experience or achieve on a spiritual path, I have to be in the present. You can't be awakened next week. It's got to happen right now. Or if it does happen next week, that's beautiful, but you're not going to benefit from it today. In this moment, you're only able to experience that which is happening right here in this moment. This breath. So absolutely, living in the present is critical. But I would call that the field, the ground, the foundation upon which everything else is built. Like the soil out of which everything else blossoms. And then you said being conscious as we execute our activities. So being present, being conscious, absolutely. But when we speak about consciousness, it's important that we are conscious not only of what we are doing, but of who we are that is doing them. So I can very consciously lift up this glass of water. I can very consciously take this off, consciously allow it to drip on me. Consciously lift it to my lips. Consciously swallow, right? I've been very conscious. My mind did not wander even once. But that doesn't necessarily mean that while I was drinking that sip of water, I was also aware of who I am as the one who is conscious. And so I would expand it to say, consciousness of who we are. There's a beautiful meditative practice of mindfulness, an entire meditative school of mindfulness, of awareness-based meditation that's rooted in just this aspect of awareness as that which doesn't change. What I'm aware of changes, so I'm aware of drinking water, or aware of walking, or aware of an itchy knee that now I'm scratching. So what I'm aware of varies, but awareness does not. And when we can anchor ourselves in awareness as awareness, that's a very deep and very powerful and very beautiful meditative experience, both for eyes closed meditation as well as for living meditation in the world. On a spiritual level where we talk about awakening and enlightenment, divinity, that expands. And it expands into what is that awareness? Right? What is that? We say, okay, awareness doesn't change, but so what is that then? What is that that doesn't change? Now, on a scientific level, I can say, well, you're only aware because your brain is functioning, right? And neurologically, we can say, okay, these are the parts of your brain that are required for awareness. These are the neural pathways that get activated when you are being aware in this way. There's been a lot of scientific research around mindfulness-based meditation. We know a lot of what's happening in the brain. The question then becomes, okay, well, so does the brain create awareness? If there were no brain, what happens to awareness? Right? And I'm just throwing out these sort of rhetorical questions because where I'm going is that we have to look at what is that awareness. And if it's not just a product of my brain, then what is it? And if it doesn't change, and it's not a product of my physical body, my physical brain, then what is that? Or, who am I? Right? Because if I'm the one who's aware, who is that? Who is that I? That even if I were brain dead would still exist. And that truth of who you are is the truth that we're trying to get at. Because that gives you some beautiful vision into really who you are, which is aware. You are aware, but you are more than just awareness. The sum total of who you are is more than awareness. It is aware, but it's more than just neurologic awareness of certain parts of my brain. So who is that? And that same being that is aware even if I'm brain dead, or that exists even if I'm not able to be consciously aware, let's say. Clarity on that deep question that Gyan Yoga is rooted in, who am I? That's when we talk about the true self. Who is that? Well, in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna gives us beautiful guidance of what that is. So he explains it to Arjuna. That soul that isn't born, that doesn't die, right? Can't be burned by fire, can't be cut by knives, can't be wet with water, dried by the wind. What is that? So I would expand. What you've said is absolutely right. I would just allow yourself to also expand. Because when I'm being conscious as I'm executing things, ask yourself, who is conscious? How do I know I'm conscious? Who knows I'm conscious? And where is that consciousness? Just in my frontal lobe? Right? Where is it? And those questions give you a much deeper experience of the truth of who you are. Okay? Does that make sense? Good.
Just one more question.
Sure.
So, living in present, it may be maybe I'm not sure. Is there first step to get in the path of moksha?
It's the first step to be on the path to anywhere. If moksha's your goal, absolutely. But even if just a happy life is your goal, it's also the first step. And a non-negotiable step. Because as I said, you can't be happy next week or last week or yesterday or tomorrow. You can only be happy right here. And in terms of moksha, well, I have to be here because only here can I actually know who I am. Only right here can I let go of that which is not self. It's like saying, let's take it on a very basic physical level, okay? If you come home from a stressful day at work and you want to relax, and you decide, I'm going to take a hot bath, hot bubble bath, okay? So you run the water in the bathtub. But in order to make that bath really one in which you go, what do you have to do?
First, I have to be out of that stress, or it should not be effective once I am out from my office.
Well, ideally, but bear with me with the bathtub here for just a moment. In order to just make the bath a beautiful experience of, what do you have to do?
A lukewarm water, which doesn't hit like hot,
Not
like
too hot,
on the
not-
body, or
Not
cold.
too hot.
Not too hot, not too cold.
Not too hot, not too cold, okay. Anything else? I'm sorry? Bath salts, beautiful. Anything else? Be in the present, yes? Take your clothes off. Take your clothes off. He's heard me tell this before. But I was waiting for, If we don't take off our clothes, that bath is not going to be enjoyable. Lying in a bath, even if the temperature is perfect, even if we've got bath salts, in a suit and tie, or a, skirt and heels and a hat and shoes, is not relaxing. You don't have that experience of going, Now, that's for the physical and kind of emotional body, right? In order to, I'm sorry?
Body sensation.
For the body sensation, exactly. So for the physical sensation and that emotional release, that stress release, I need to take off my clothes. Now think about it on a deeper level. Instead of relaxing into a hot bath, I'm relaxing into the truth of who I am, okay? You can call it a hot bath for the soul, or a lukewarm bath for the soul. I like them hot, but in order to do that, I actually have to take off all of that which is not self. Like I took off my clothes, I have to be naked in order to enjoy the bath. In order to drop into my true self, I have to be naked of that which is not self. So I have to let go of the ego, of fears, of my identities, of my history, of my personalities, of expectations, of grudges, of all of that stuff that is not self but keeps me spiritually stuck the same way that a, tight skirt and heels or a suit and tie keep me stuck physically. So I've got to let them go. But I can't let them go next week and benefit today. If I'm going to experience moksha, in that moment, I have to be free. Not just in some vague, theoretical kind of, we call it moksha, so it must just be somewhere in the ether kind of thing. But I actually have to be free of that which binds me. What binds you? Your ego, your ignorance, your history, your grudges, your identities, your stories. That's what binds us. So I need to let them go right here, right now. So this is where that present, being in the present, is so critical. Is it a stepping stone to moksha? Absolutely. It's the ground upon which mokshas manifest. Because if I'm not present, if I'm not here, then who's free? Right? Think about that. If I'm not here, I'm not in the present, my mind is in the future or my mind is in the past, तो मोक्ष कैसे होगा? किसका मोक्ष होगा? शरीर का? मैं तो हूँ नहीं यहाँ. मैं तो next week में हूँ या last week में हूँ. So किसका मोक्ष?
So why people are connecting, sorry for this.
That's okay.
Why people are living past and present, not in present, living future? Why people are connecting?
So why do we get stuck in the past and the future?
This is the Mumaya
It's
main thing.
yeah, it
Sorry for that.
no, that's okay. Not at all. It's human nature. It's you could call it the great trap of human nature. It's the great trap of the
पर
mind.
ये जाल में से my age is not that much. I am 25 years old and I live normally like normal life. Sorry, I put it back. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but keep speaking so that our family
Okay.
joining us online can hear you.
Okay,
That's
okay.
what, yes.
Main thing is why people are connecting with so much and live like he was my best friend and he was die one day. All people are temporary in the world, right? No one live like different way. I'm not experienced that much, but I experienced little bit.
So the
Also-
question is, why do people get stuck in the past and the future?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the nature of, it's the nature of human mind. It's the nature of our programming. Children do not. If you look at young children, we train them to be in the future, right? They're eating a cookie now. We're saying, oh, wait till your birthday next week. You're going to get such a good cake next week.
Yeah.
This cookie is nothing compared to the cake you're going to get next week, right? We actually train children to do that. Or we say to them, you're irresponsible, you're irresponsible, you're lazy. Now, the child right here, right now, is just being there. But we are remembering something they did last week, and we are blaming the child for it now. Now, in the child's mind, they're not thinking about last week. They're not living in last week. The punishment makes no sense to them whatsoever. But slowly, 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 as we grow, we learn to get stuck in the past and the future. It also happens as the ego develops. Because the ego develops wanting more and more for itself. So it's always thinking about the future, when I'm going to have more, get more, be more. Or it's fearful for the future because the ego says, I'm worthless, I'm irresponsible, I'm lazy. Oh my God, I've got to give a presentation next week, I'm going to fail. So as the ego gets very developed, we find ourselves in the future there with desire, with fear, anxiety, yearning, or we find ourselves in the past with all of the stories that have built our ego. The grudges, the pain, the betrayal, the cheating, the things that we've experienced. We hold on to those, and as we hold on to those, like right now, I don't trust, because last week or 40 years ago, someone betrayed me.
40 years ago.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Have an in-depth, very deep, vulnerable, open, honest conversation with people in their 50s, 60s, 70s about their greatest struggles in life. 9 times out of 10, you're going to hear about what happened to them in the first 15 years of their life. So we get defined by that. And we carry it forward. We carry it forward. And so we're living in the past because who we are today has been stuck. पहले सुन लीजिएगा, फिर अपनी प्रश्न सोचो. क्या होता है कि we don't actually listen because we're too busy figuring out next what I will ask.
Yeah.
So actually allow yourself to be here right now. कोई जल्दी में नहीं है.
Okay.
We'll take your next question if you've got one.
Thank you.
But give yourself the benefit of actually being here, actually listening. Because the mind has this great way of keeping us not in the moment. And you'll remember we were just talking about the importance of the moment. So if while I'm speaking, you're already with your, wait, then you're not here, you're 5 minutes from now. So, we get stuck in the past, we get stuck in the future, based on what you could call simply the habits of the mind, and the way that the ego develops as it interacts with the habits of our mind. But this is where meditation is so important, because you say, why are people so stuck? So we say, okay, they are stuck. It's the nature of the mind. Go back to our scriptures. They're already talking about the monkey mind, right? It's not just today. It's not just smartphones. It's not just how busy we are. It's actually the nature of the mind to be like that. It's like saying, I got this new puppy. Why does he bark all the time? Oh my God, what is he doing? Like, I'm right there. Why is he barking? Well, it's what puppies do. It's sort of the nature of being a puppy. Why does he pee everywhere? It's what puppies do. So we understand that as the nature of the mind. But we also understand that everything we want on a deep spiritual level can only be attained and experienced in the present, which means that we have to overcome the tendency of the mind to drift into the past and the future. And that's why we meditate. It's why we do japa. It's why we do seva. It's why we do all of these practices that in different ways train our mind to be right here, right now. And then in this moment, to be conscious, not just of what I'm doing, but of who is doing them. Who is the doer? Well, the ultimate doer we know is God. But who is this one through whom doing is happening? Who is that?
It's only me.
I'm sorry?
It's only ourselves.
Well, I wouldn't use the word only in front of yourself.
No.
It's yourself.
Our
Well,
soul.
but is your soul doing things?
No, like everything doing is mind, right? But soul is main important. Like people are human are temporary in
Yeah,
the world.
it's beautiful. No, I'm pushing you for a reason here. And it's great, yes. So the soul isn't doing. This is where we speak about Jivatma,
Jiva.
Atma,
Atma.
right? And we talk about, for example, in yoga is that union of this lowercase s self,
जहाँ आत्मा है वहीं
the
परमात्मा
doer,
है.
you could say, the ground level doer,
Yeah.
and the capital S self, one with the divine. So this is what our spiritual practice is about. 25 is a beautiful age. I was 25 when I moved to India, when I first came here.
Okay.
It's a beautiful age. I know you feel very young, but you have all of the possibility and capacity to understand that you have to actually let yourself be a receiver.
Every time, ma'am, I feel like I live in past. Every time I feel like I live in past, I'm connecting with someone and then I was normal. But
Okay?
main thing is
where are
what
you right now?
I'm in my present now.
Mhm.
I
Great.
feel I little bit feel conscious.
Mhm.
But main thing is every time something
Wait, hang
is
on. Not every time, because right here you're here.
Yeah.
Okay. So if right here in this moment you're here, but other times you're in the past, what is different between this moment and the other moments?
Now I feel little bit happy.
Mhm.
Like our souls like feel free, freedom, happiness. But sometimes or like in 24 hours, maybe 18 hours, I feel like not conscious.
Exactly.
I'm not live my life.
Beautiful. And beautiful that at such a young age you've realized that. Now, this is why we have practices to become conscious. This is where we meditate. Now, obviously you're not going to spend 18 hours a day like this, but you should spend at least 18 minutes a day like that. And if you can spend a little bit longer, that's wonderful. Because when you meditate, you train the mind to be here right now, right? A thought arises, but I don't go with it. I bring the awareness right back to my breath. Another thought arises. I don't get hooked into it. I bring the awareness back to my breath. A thought arises. I bring the awareness back. Slowly, slowly, the mind gets trained to be exactly where you put it, on the breath, on a mantra, on your third eye, whatever you are meditating upon, for the mind to stay there. Then, as you move through the world, you'll find the same thing happens. The mind wanders, and you bring it back. You've developed a practice. You've developed what we call a sanskara. Bring it back. This is where a beautiful practice of japa is so powerful, because it gives the mind something to do other than be in your past or be in your future. It has obviously many other very powerful properties as well, but at the bare minimum, it keeps your mind right here, right now. So if you begin these practices, it'll allow you to slowly, slowly get a handle on the mind. Right here, right now. Right here, right now. And then when your mind goes to the past, you've got something to do. You just bring it back. Bring it back to your breath. Bring it back to your mantra. Don't worry about why it's going. That's the nature of the mind. It's like saying, okay, I'm going to, figure out why my puppy is peeing everywhere. Well, no, just train him to pee in the corner instead. Right? So in that way, we just train the mind to stop doing that. Okay? Now, it doesn't mean memories are bad. Memories are beautiful. But if you're going to remember something, consciously remember it. Oh, okay, now I'm going to think about, fine. But you don't want it to happen unconsciously. We need to be living consciously. Every minute, every moment. And I have found that it helps if you slow down a little. Also, if you can slow down when you're speaking, you'll find that the mind also starts to slow down as well. And then slowly, slowly, you'll find that you're able to just be right here. And then you'll lose it. And then you'll gain it again. And then you'll lose it and you'll gain it again. And then slowly the amount of time you can hold it gets longer. And longer and longer. Okay? Beautiful. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your evening, everyone. Beautiful morning and day to our family around the world. And so much love to you all. And look forward to seeing you all tomorrow evening.